Welcome, y'all, to the 7th episode of Jeremiah the Podcast. I am Jeremiah Alford, and as always, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We appreciate it, and if you want to help support us and support the guests and help us continue delivering great content, please like, share, and talk about this episode on social media and all your friends and family and all the above. It helps us out tremendously. And also be sure to follow us on social media at Instagram at Jeremiah the Insta and on Facebook at Jeremiah the Social Media. We appreciate it ahead of time. Today we have the amazing Bert Sorin of Sorinex. Sorinex is one of the largest manufacturers of strength and conditioning equipment in America and worldwide. Located in South Carolina, they work with many professional, collegiate, and local level programs to deliver wonderful strength and conditioning possibilities to all levels. I personally use their performance bar, and I have been a fan of it ever since. It's something I use every day, and it's also known as my bar at our local gym. So check it out yourself, and let me know if you actually have it and try it out, because I'm a big fan of it. I want to know what y'all think. As well as Bert Sorin being the owner of Sorinex, he's also just overall fascinating guy. Wonderful stories, being a college athlete, a walk-on thrower for USC, into becoming a 4-time All-American thrower. His upcoming into Sorinex and overall philosophy on business, family life, and all the above. He is great and inspiring and motivational, and this episode will get you off your butt and make you want to do something with your life. Like, it's awesome. So fantastic episode with Bert Sorin of Sorinex, and please follow him on all the social media as well. Follow Sorinex, and I believe that is all before we go into this next episode. Without further ado, we have Bert Sorin, and away we go. Cool to see like the business side of you come out and stuff like that.
Man.
People see the strength side of you a lot, and they hear the Sorinex name and they hear Bert Sorin, but you're actually a really smart-minded businessman.
I don't go that far, but I appreciate it.
I like the humble look that you just gave me and stuff like that. Where did you get your business sense from?
Basically, just I hate to say the school of hard knocks because that's so typical, but really it's been just through experience. That my father's given me, and he did go through the school of hard knocks and got his butt kicked a number of times in it. And neither one of us have really intended to be businessmen per se. It's just been Sorinex, I hate to say, has really been a cover charge of being in the iron game, something that we both love, So Dad always wanted to be relevant within the strength community, far past his actual strength numbers, and got into it because he knew he wanted a strength equipment that was better than what was currently available on the market.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm good at building stuff, so I'm going to build it. And he built some, and a couple of people said, hey, that's really cool stuff. Will you build me one? And he goes, yeah, I guess. And so he did that for a while out of our carport in the house, and then it started becoming more and more popular, obviously local stuff.
Yeah.
And then we realized there was potentially a business that could go along with it that would allow him to be involved in the strength community for years to come. So the kind of funny part was, what was your business plan? Well, there was no business plan, ever. I mean, our business plan we kind of pushed together about 5 years ago, which is funny because that's the 32nd year of our business. So there's been a ton of mistakes made because if you're not a business person, you're running on passion. For the iron game and for just the competitive nature. Both he and I are athletes, so you don't want to lose. You don't want to, losing is going out of business, right?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate failure. But although it's not that big of a failure, most people that have successful businesses went out of business a few times. So there's the competitiveness there, and we want to make our mark on the strength world, which I think we've done. And then we learn business by default. You get your butt kicked a bunch of times and you go, okay, don't do that again. And then you do something else stupid and you go, okay, don't do that again. And thankfully, by the grace of God, we're still around to keep fighting. And then you get your butt kicked again. And fast forward 20 years later of that, you just, by default, you're pretty smart, I guess.
You learn from wisdom. Wisdom's the ultimate knowledge.
Absolutely. And the only thing is you just have to make sure you don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Mistakes are all right, just don't make them twice.
Yes, especially with the same person.
Same
Person, same community.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's where that came from. And, and since I've kind of been at the helm, I've realized that, understanding business at this point is much more important than understanding a proper power clean or a box squat or programming or whatever it may be from the strength side, which is what I engulfed myself into throughout my competitive career.
Yeah.
How to program, how to peak and everything in my track and field career, that was what I was really driven towards. And I've kind of grown out of that and said, okay, that's great, but that's a very selfish goal. And it's, I guess I was able to coach people and help people, but still it's a narrow, maybe not as selfish, but more of a narrow goal.
Yeah.
Whereas if I could help run a successful business, currently we have roughly 75 employees, so that 60 plus families, 60 to 70 families depend on basically the decisions we're making at the top end and how does that trickle down. So the responsibility is just much higher. The responsibility of mine, let's say 15 years ago, was know how to peak for nationals, go and try to do well there, innovate ideas, put food on the table so a few of us could eat and create a neat job that we enjoyed, changing the strength world. But now obviously the stakes are higher. So you have to, if you're going to be a professional football player, learn the game of football.
Yeah.
If you're going, I've always called it a student of the event. And nice. So in the throwing world, why I enjoyed throwing and I still respect it is because specifically in the hammer throw, I've never met anyone who was good at it the first time they tried. Some people are just really good at football because they're alive.
Yeah.
You hand them a football and they go, oh, okay, I could outrun everyone and I'm tough, so I'm a great football player. And there's literally people that would basically, with very little training, could be in the NFL because they're alive.
Oh yeah, they're just freaks of nature.
Just freaks.
Yeah.
However, the hammer throw is one of those things that no matter how freaky you are, you're terrible at it unless you put thousands of hours into it.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of it evens the playing field a little bit, but who's going to put the work in, and you have to be genetically gifted and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like fly fishing. You don't just pick it up.
No, it's an
technique.
Art form. It's an art, yeah.
Sure. So that was cool. But just, that kind of gives, obviously don't want to go down too many rabbit holes, but that's a little bit about just a bunch of rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of what we were able to put into the business world now. And so like, okay, well, how do we grow the business? How do we make it more sustainable? And obviously if that happens, generally it can be more profitable. And if that's profitable, what is, you go from a subsistence mindset, meaning we're in business and we're surviving and we get checks every once in a while, to, okay, let's go into a growth mode and create some real impact. And unfortunately, at a subsistence level, you can't create much impact on the world because you're too concerned about yourself.
Yeah.
I read today that, don't ask a drowning man to help you.
Yeah,
he's too worried about himself surviving, which he needs to be. That's number one priority. So you can't really, I don't feel you could be very, very helpful to anyone until you have an excess of success in your life.
Yes.
And so the selfless portion of that, trying to succeed sounds selfish, but really,
no, it's important.
It's important because I can't be good to anyone or really change the industry until there was a higher measure of success, and then where you could turn those profits into really what your goal is. And I think you see that kind of manifested through Summer Strong this year.
Yeah.
That's where my heart is, and that's what I want to do. Selling racks is fun and everything, but that's not a goal. That's not a life goal. I want to sell a bunch of racks.
Yeah, right.
That's not a thing.
That's material. That isn't it.
Right.
That's not all. What this world is about is like interpersonal connection or bigger impact. Yeah.
Correct. So, or to say, I want to sell X number of dollars or make a lot of money. Like that's not a goal.
That's like what the simple-minded people think what business is.
Sure. I just want to be rich. Well, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because literally if you make let's just say you make X number of dollars, it's never enough.
No, you always want XYZ, a number of dollars.
You got it. So the goal and your purpose has to be much larger than that. And where I think that whether by God or by luck or whatever, or maybe just, our gifting has been to pull like-minded high performers together and hopefully offer a value to them for them to be the best version of themselves they can be.
Yep.
And I think that was illustrated at Summer Strong, and it was very organic, and it's just grown into that. But this year, even more than anything, just really solidified when I saw the effect that everyone in the room had on specific individuals who I hold in extremely high regard, which is basically all of the speakers we had this year. And then the traction that they have in the community, or can have in the community. Now I'm seeing all the leaders in the strength community, they're getting fed and they're getting counseled. They're getting things off their chest. They're figuring things out. And so at that point, they are disciples, not under me or by any stretch of the imagination, but just disciples of
the sport.
Strength righteousness.
The strength,
you know? And now they could go out and help people. And maybe I've kind of figured out, I think our purpose at Sorinex is the success of Sorinex just offers a platform large enough that we're relevant within the community to attract these people. And for some reason, they tend to like us, and we jive with them. And maybe that's the gift that we have, that we're hopefully supposed to be here to do something for this world for that. So that's how I see it. So it's even just recently, it's refocused what I feel the gift is. And what the journey of this whole thing is. It's not to sell racks. It's not to make money. It's not to live on the lake or some crazy, like, whatever. That's fine. If we could use this platform to fuel a movement to change how people, specifically, obviously the weightlifting community, because there's a lot of insecurities. There's a lot of hurt people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people find weightlifting as a sanctuary for self-development.
Sure, and even
I did that as well.
Right, and it's a self-development, and sometimes it's literally, I want to call it a drug or a sadistic kind of thing. But sometimes people want to feel the pain.
Yeah,
and the pain is actually, whether it's them working through something in their mind or a penance they feel they're paying, or
it's a release.
It's a release. Or there's some people that, I hate to say it, just don't like themselves, and pulling on a bar or having a big heavy bar squash them to death.
Yep.
And then pushing against it is pleasurable to feel like they're fighting out of that pain. And I understand that more now. And I guess my kind of message is, that's great if that's what you need at this time, but that's not a long sustainable way to look at life, because at some point your body's going to break, and then you basically use weightlifting as a coping mechanism the entire time, versus get some stuff fixed and then, hey, let's go lift weights because we enjoy it.
Yes.
And we like being stronger and a better version of ourselves, versus another drug source.
Yeah, it's like people that always who are trying to get those six-pack abs or diets, or always wanting to lose weight, and they're never satisfied even when they get there. They're not wanting those abs for the development or for the journey or thing. They want it because they either want more respect or more love or something that's actually missing, that the abs will never get them, that they have to kind of find on their own.
But that's what they feel is going to be the ticket. When I'm really, really lean and tan, I'll be there. Well, that never happens.
Yeah.
Tomorrow never comes, kind of deal. And so that's what we feel, and I think we've had a revitalization on what the company's about, and it's been as recent as Summer Strong, because it was so evident to us, the impact and the change that was happening, and not necessarily from Sorinex, but just from the other people in the room. And if we could offer a platform for that to happen, then I think that's a heck of a good purpose.
Yeah, I would say I relate directly with the diet analogy or losing weight analogy, because I was very overweight growing up, and I used to be called. I used to be very round and pale, and you poke me in the belly, I laugh.
Right.
And so I adequately got the name Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, you gotta love that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Makes you feel great about yourself.
Yeah, right. And so I remember going on that journey of weight loss, and ultimately finding that's not really when I achieved what I wanted, but I didn't achieve the feeling I wanted. And so there's all those journeys and stuff, and you have to go like deeper and find new sources of knowledge and inspiration. Where was your journey along this? Did you ever find yourself along that path?
I never had weight problems. If anything, I was uber skinny.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and even in that's, maybe from a health side, that's a better deal than being overweight. But, as a kid of a dad who's an absolute monster,
Yeah.
when you're a kid, your dad's 6'5", 250 with abs. It looks like Tom Selleck. I mean, that's a lot to grow up to, and live up to. But
even with the mustache?
Oh yeah, the mustache, the whole nine.
Intense.
Like the funny part is literally Tom Selleck saw a picture of my dad and said, "Dang, that guy looks like me," which is very odd. So yeah, I mean, so
now you look like Duck Dynasty.
Perfect. We're doppelgangers.
Yeah.
So yeah, growing up and I wasn't overly strong and so there's a lot to live up to, and basically grew up in a gym and so there was always a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to kind of say, no, I could do this. And then I walked on at South Carolina to the track team, which was an absolute idiotic idea. I mean, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, but it was also so crazy and so ill prepared, and it was just, there's no point. There's mathematically zero reason for me to do that.
You see that now. You didn't see that when you're coming out.
I think if I have a superpower, it's the ability to recognize when doors open.
Yes.
And to have the stones to walk through them. And maybe it's not necessarily because I'm so tough or strong or whatever, but it's that I'm interested enough and I'm interested in the adventure and what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I was having a conversation with Derek Witzke yesterday about this, about some of the stuff you and I were talking about earlier. And a lot of the amazing moments I've had in my life, just kind of the shot opportunity opened itself and I pulled the trigger. And
Yes.
it really wasn't a whole heck of a lot more than that. Now, there was fights along the way, but the catalyst of it was generally could be seen as luck. But I don't like to see it as luck because I'm not that lucky. Really.
Yeah.
I think if anything, I have an ability to see things that might be kind of fun, and I'm not afraid to shoot.
Yeah, I hear success is like a combination of opportunity, planning with a dash of luck. Like there is a play, but you have to have an opportunity in planning.
Well, right, and I guess Derek. If you don't follow Derek Witzke, you need to.
Writing that down.
Guy's an absolute genius. He's one of my best friends and one of my mentors, actually.
Didn't he talk at Summer
He
Strong?
talked at Summer Strong, and so he and I were talking. We go back and forth, and he has an extremely extraordinary life as well. And and it's extraordinary isn't necessarily an internally driven thing, and we just kind of laugh, like all these things happen to us, and we text each other, we're like, okay, so this just happened, and we just laugh. We go, yeah, it's just kind of par for course, weird stuff just seems to happen to us. And I kind of joked and I said, I think the two key ingredients for success is don't be afraid to try to do epic crap.
Yeah.
And be a good storyteller.
Oh man, that's the whole journey I'm on right now, is trying to be a better storyteller.
Right. And because of those two things, and it's stupid as it sounds, but if you're open to just try stuff, which most people are too afraid to do, they're either too afraid to walk through that door, even if it's wide open.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say, well, I would walk through that door, but I got to go to lunch right now.
Yes.
I'll come back and let me think about it at lunch.
There's a comfortable activity or
There's
comfortable
a comfortable
space.
thing. Sure. I need to get home right now. I need to do this. And so it's kind of off the beaten path, but it's an open door. And sometimes success is really that simple. Walk through the door. But so many people look at that daily life. No, this is what I do for a living, and this is what I do. I go home and I do whatever it may be. That's fine. But those openings are happening all around you. And if you kind of have the balls to walk through the door, and then the second bit of it is if you're a good storyteller, then you could convey that experience congruently and openly with others. You could inspire others, and you create other experiences for those doors to open, to the point where there's literally a tipping point where your value becomes higher, that those doors open constantly.
Yes.
And they're around you constantly. And then it's just, you have to almost pick which doors to go through, but the key is to keep going through them. And I guess that would kind of be my life hack, is what I've kind of figured out. It's like, oh man, it's every time I went out on a limb and did something that was maybe not normal or not typical, I've had an amazing story that came from it, whether I succeeded or not.
Yep.
And I usually get invited to do more interesting things because maybe while I was doing it, I touched someone that was there, helped out somebody, had an experience with someone beside them, and then the relationship flourishes, and then something goes, and then the life. And if nothing else, your life actually, you raise the bar of what you think possible is.
Yes.
For instance, okay, so one of the first ones that ever happened to me was literally walking on the track team at University of South Carolina. And I'll spare you the details and not make it too long, but it's a pretty good story. So I show up at University of South Carolina, and I was going to go to Appalachian State, but I applied late, so I got into South Carolina. I said, I'm just going to go for a semester. I'd stay in town, no sweat. So I just took my normal classes, and I'll be honest, I drank for like the first 6 or 7 days just straight.
College life.
College life, typical college life, right?
Yeah.
So
did you go with your friends or anything, or is this?
I knew like one guy there from my high school that I was pretty good friends with, but it was just, I'm going to go here. I wasn't planning on going to South Carolina. It was, I'm going to go here for a minute. It's Christmas. I'm going to go to App State. I'm going to be a ski bum. It's going to be great.
Okay, yeah.
So I called Dad and I said, hey, I know we have our equipment down at the South Carolina weight room. Do you think you could talk to the coach and see if I could work out after the athletes or work out sometime today, because I want to lift on good stuff, because the rec center at that time had just junk. And he said, sure, let me call him. So he calls me back and says, hey, coach said to go there after the athletes, and it's like at 6 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm 17 years old and I didn't listen to what time he said, so I just, when I felt like going, I just went down there. What happened, if you're ever in a college weight room on the first week of school at 2 p.m., literally every athlete is in there.
Jesus.
So I walked in, and this is 1994, so security was much more lax. So I walk in at the University of South Carolina and walk in the weight room and look around, and well, it's the first week, so no one knows who anyone is anyway.
Yeah, you're part of the football team at this point, probably.
Or the track team,
yeah,
or the anything team. So I walk in and I look around, there's a platform open, so I start doing some cleans, and there's a bench open, so I start doing some benches. And these people are doing these vertical jumps. I said, oh, that looks cool. I wish I maybe try that. This is awesome. They're actually testing this stuff.
Yeah.
So I walk over, first door I kind of opened. The door wasn't even opened, but I peeked my head in.
Yeah, you saw, yeah.
I saw something I found was interesting. It was an adventure.
Yeah.
I'm going to go try that. So I walk over there, and he says, what's your name? And he writes it down. I'm thinking, why do they write my name down? But okay, cool, I'll go on the ride. So I jump up 29.5 inches, and he's like, hey, that's pretty good. I was like, cool. I walk back over and keep lifting.
Yeah.
And then they start doing body fat caliper testing. I'm like, that looks cool too. I kind of wonder what I am. And I'm thinking, they're going to get mad at me if I go there. I'm like, forget it, I'm going. Second time, poke my head through the door. Walk in there, there's a man sitting down, taking the notes, and he says, okay, what's your name? I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm trying to back out the door at this point because I'm just a guy. I'm not a student athlete, never been recruited, was not good in high school. And he takes my name down. He said, what sport? I said, and then I'm literally, at this point, I lie. And I said, I'm thinking about walking onto the track team in the spring. And he goes, oh, what did you do? I said, I wasn't a very good shot disc thrower, but that's what I would do. And he's like, oh, okay. And he goes, well, I'm Larry Judge. I'm the throws coach at the University of South Carolina. The one dude I couldn't have lied to on the entire campus was that guy.
Yeah.
And he looks at me. He goes, all right, we'll be at practice tomorrow at 2. And I was like, whoa, coach, wait, hold on. Like, this is a spring sport. This is August right now. Like, see you, after Christmas. He's like, no, son, you're in college now. We're year round. And I'll go, okay, yeah, coach, I'll try to make it. I kind of blew him off, like, let me get out of here, moonwalk out of this thing, and then we'll go back to lift, and you'll never see me again. And he looked at me dead in the eye. He goes, no, son, if you're going to be on the team, you will make it tomorrow. So there was the door was open.
Yeah.
Was I going to walk through it?
You got pushed through that door.
I got pushed.
Yeah.
So I finished my workout. I went back to the dorm room. I called my dad. I was like, hey, he's like, how's your workout? I was like, yeah, good. I think I'm walking on the track team. He's like, wait, what? And I'm like, I told him. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to show up tomorrow at 2, see what it's about. And, I was terrible at the time. I was 172 pounds, 6'2", in a D1 SEC college trying to be a thrower. I was literally 100 pounds lighter than discus throwers in the SEC.
Yeah, they're big guys.
Big dudes.
Dude, yeah.
Big, strong guys.
Linemen.
Yeah, and I was not very strong. I was decently strong, but not strong, college strong. Little did I know the University of South Carolina was probably the number 2 or 3 throwing program in the nation behind UCLA and SMU.
Jesus.
Didn't know.
Yeah.
Just showed up. So go out there the first day, and these are the biggest humans I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, man, you guys are huge. Y'all must be seniors. And they're like, no, we're freshmen. They just got recruits. I'm like, oh my Lord, what did I walk into? And through that, I just got a little bit of a taste of it. And through the next 5 years, I worked harder than I would say probably anyone on the team, and because I had to make up my entire high school career of training in college. Mm-hmm. So they redshirted me, and then long story short, by my 5th season, I was team captain, held the SEC record, and was 4-time All-American.
I was say you were a 4-time All-American.
Yeah. So that's how that happened. So everyone's like, "Oh, you were a big high recruit." Nope, never recruited a day in my life.
Yeah.
And
so quote unquote you walked on, was
literally walked on,
yeah.
Walked into the weight room and was like, hey, I want to do this, and you're like, you're stupid, there's no way. And they literally called me Rudy the first year.
Really? Just how much you struggled or something?
No, I was just little. I was the undersized. Remember the movie Rudy?
Yeah.
And so I had to go pick up all the water each day, act like a manager. And then I had to give all the girls on our team who didn't have cars that were good, I had to give all them rides back to everywhere. So I was like the taxi cab manager guy.
You were like the pledge.
I was like the crappiest pledge ever.
Yeah.
And
you were the only one.
Yeah. They were just like, I was just the guy. And literally, I was so weak, and I say so weak because our men were extremely strong and our women were extremely strong. Mm-hmm. That Coach Judge said, lift on the rack with the girls until you get stronger than them. Mm. And I remember the day I did it. I squatted 385 for a set of 5. And I only beat Lisa Missapeka by 5 pounds. That's how strong our girls were. And that allowed me to graduate off the women's rack.
Awesome.
My freshman year. And I'm thinking, I look back, I'm like, that's pretty strong for a 190-pound kid.
Yeah.
But that's how strong our girls were. And so finally I got to lift with the guys. And then, fast forward a few years and things worked out. And then from there I was able to have about a 5-year professional career in track and field with 2 Olympic trials and stuff like that. So what I say it's not about the accolades, but I walked a number of times through a door that was about as closed as you get.
Yes.
It was like left open on accident, cracked open, and I happened to poke my head in there a few times.
Yes.
And then when it was finally opened up, almost as a joke, I walked through it. And then I literally trained so hard that, many days I pissed blood, many days I passed out, many days, I think back and I go, I could never do that again. I couldn't physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually do that again.
What was your driving force then? What made you push so hard right then and there? Was it the strong women that you were training around?
No, it was, I always thought athletes were really cool, and I was never like the athletic kid in high school.
Okay.
And being in our world that we live in, the strength world, I always thought of them in very high regard, but I never was known as the athlete or the strong kid. Mm-hmm. And I got this drug of PRs.
Yes.
And how Judge's program was set up that every 4 weeks, it's basically test day. And it was rep test, but every 4 weeks you got to basically cash out, as I saw it.
Yep.
So then it became, if I get to cash out every 4 weeks, how much can I deposit in 3 weeks? Yep. So I get the big cash outs. And so I became literally addicted to those.
Yep. And
to the extent of, you knew 4 weeks out what your 100% day was supposed to be. I knew it was, for instance, one day I was supposed to squat 315 for 6 reps, I believe.
Okay.
Which was going to be my 100% set. And I ended up doing it for 14.
Balling. Nice.
So I over doubled it, which is how much stronger I literally got in 4 weeks. Because now I completely overreached on that test day, but I remember almost in tears for the last 5 reps. And I just wanted to feel every single bit like, what could I pull out of this? Because yes. I knew 4 weeks from now I would be stronger because of it. Mm-hmm. And so it literally became consuming to me, because I knew that I could elicit change and I could become what I wanted to become and have the respect as an athlete and as being a strong person, which is obviously held in high regard in my family. And all I had to do was just work and work harder than everyone else I know.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, let's go. You know, that was what it was. But those years became the framework and the blueprint for success that I found. It was like, oh, okay, you just work harder than everyone you know?
Yes.
Okay, I gotcha. And you eat everything in sight?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You know, and I put 30 pounds on the first semester, and my squat went from 320 for 1 to 440 for 5 by the end of the year, and, you know, and just boom, 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 and everything was happening. I made junior nationals my first year, and then all this stuff just happened. And so that was, then I got just addicted to it. I went out to California that first year, got to compete at junior nationals, and was like, oh, this is what successful people get to do. I like this way more than mediocre people.
Yeah,
the things that mediocre people get to do is not nearly as fun as this.
No.
And that was my first taste of that, and met a few of the people on the team, and I was just amazed that a few of them were all Americans. I'm like, I just heard that on TV. I don't even know what that is. You know, and I was like, you're an All-American? I'm like, they're like, yeah, you. I said, how do you do that? They go, you go to NCAAs and, you know, and place this level, you know, and I said, what are NCAAs? And they're like, well, it's the national championship. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. How do I do that? You know, they go, well, you got to do this, and you score high at conference. I'm like, what's conference? And they're like, that's the SEC Conference Championships. When's that? I mean, I literally had no idea what anything was. And so part of it was the, like that little kid.
That curiosity.
The curiosity that little kids get when they're 6 and 7 years old when they're playing t-ball.
Yeah, you sound like you're talking to someone like about describing a wonderland, and that's
what it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. And so I think by me being a terrible athlete in high school and not being exposed to many things, my wonderland and interesting, fun phase, like when kids are 8, 9, and 10 and they love sports, I just happened to be 18. Mm-hmm. So I was in that little, I'm going to go crazy about this phase when everyone was in college going, they're kind of tired of it because they'd been groomed to get to college. Get to college, get your ride, and you're set. Well, I didn't have a ride. And so my journey was starting in college. So it was like, okay, well, if y'all are just going to kind of coast, I'm going to blow past you.
That's your chance, yeah.
This is my chance to make this. And so the goal was, you know, every Christmas I would go home. Most people would relax for those 30 days. And I always told Coach, I'm going to come back 5% stronger than I left. We would max out, we'd go to Christmas, and I'd come back 4 weeks later and max out higher than I left. But what I found is if I did that every Christmas, and I did that every spring break, and I did that every summer, I was putting on 15% a year over everyone else. And if I did it over 4 years, I've just lapped you.
Yes,
I mean, you know, and then there was guys that came in, they were throwing 10 meters ahead of me my first year, and I was out throwing about 20 and 30 meters my senior year, just because I kept going.
And that's what you needed, if anything.
I had to, or I was literally horrible.
Okay.
So that was one of the first times that I realized that walking through that door makes the difference. And I've kept that, and really honed that, the skill to see when those opportunities present themselves.
Yes, sir.
You know, got invited on a whim I just got back from Scotland when I was doing my Highland Games career. And, you know, to be the team captain of the U.S. team, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Of course, I was working, and they're like, you're going to go for a week. And the smart move was stay home. But I got to go to Scotland and compete under the William Wallace Memorial Monument, throw for 2 days, do all this other cool stuff, have this amazing experience. Well, I come back. A week later, they said, we were invited to the Amateur World Championships.
Gosh.
And then I went, I just left. I shouldn't leave. Talked to my dad. He's like, yeah, you know, you're missing a lot of time at work. And it kind of gave me a little bit of a, all right, well, you know, I mean, you probably need to sit this one out. You need to get serious about this. That's another day off work. And I kind of said, it's World Championships, I want to go. Yeah. And I threw out of my mind and won. So then that was my last meet of my amateur career and turned pro right after that, and then got to be the first amateur world champion, and then go and experience a whole different career. And why? Walked through the door.
You took the opportunity.
Took the door that was open. Didn't make much sense. I had just been gone for a week, but you know, those are those things. So that's what I always say, man. Just go through the door, and don't look for necessarily success. Look for an amazing experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And don't look for profit. Don't look for an amazing experience. And that amazing experience is generally always done with other people, and that's why I always talk about extraordinary people and extraordinary experiences. that is, in my opinion, the ultimate goal in life, is to have extraordinary experiences with extraordinary people. And that doesn't have to mean a celebrity or a world-class athlete or whatever it may be. Extraordinary person could be your kids. Extraordinary person could be your teammates. And you work, so if you're kids, you work to help develop them so they'll become extraordinary. If they're your teammates, you pick your teammates well, they're extraordinary, and you help them, and they help you, and you become an extraordinary team. Thus, you can have an extraordinary experience.
Yeah.
That's the key to the whole deal. And I think if you're always looking for that, the world is literally your oyster. I mean, I've seen people see things so differently, and this is something I did later in my throwing career that actually helped. I put 3 meters on my hammer throw at one time, and I think it was honestly a stress reduction thing. And I was having kind of a breakdown training for the 2000 or 2001 Nationals. I can't remember what it was. But I was starting to get really, really stressed out, and I just wasn't throwing as far as I wanted to. And, you know, I'm training by myself and doing Sorinex and the whole nine.
Yes, sir.
And I started, and I just remember being mad, and someone says, well, do this and this and this. And I was like, no, I've got to throw today.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I started thinking about it, and I went, hold on a minute. I've got to throw today. I've got to. I don't got to do crap. Like, no one's holding a gun to my head saying that I have to be Bert the hammer thrower. No one's saying that I have to be Bert the guy who trains really hard. I don't got to do anything. And that was kind of a first in a reduction of stress, where I'm going, you know, this is my hand. Whether it chooses to hold me down or lift me up, it's my hand doing it.
Yeah, it was your own stress you were putting on yourself.
It was my own stress, and it was, I got to. So I changed one letter. I changed it to get.
Yes.
Got to get.
Make it an opportunity.
And then it was, I get to throw today. I get to train today. And some days, because of work stresses or whatever, I didn't get to train. But when I started looking at it as not a job, but as a reward, and then I started really keying in onto, I get to go out and throw. Here's one way to look at it. I got to go out and throw means I'm going to sit out in a dusty gravel parking lot by myself at 5:30 in the afternoon, the hottest part of the day in June, and throw an obscure event by myself that no one cares about, to go to a national championship that is, although it's the USA Track and Field National Championships, the hammer is the least popular event, and probably not make the Olympic team. That's the got. The get is, I get to go outside in the sunshine as an adult and yell and scream and roar and take out my aggression and practice an art form that I get to see a pretty heavy ball go really far out of my hand.
Heck yeah.
That 99.9999% of the world can't do. And I get to go to Eugene, Oregon this year and compete where track and field basically started, and in front of a crowd of about 50,000 people, and see the world and meet amazing people, and I still get to do it as an adult.
Yeah.
The same exact action, but the got to the get.
It's all mindset.
All of it, and it became a reward. And I remember being so happy, going, man, I get to go this weekend. I get to smell that fresh cut grass. I get to smell the tacky on my hand, and and I get to feel that little adrenaline spike when I've peaked a little bit, and I'm starting to walk into the ring, and they get that bubbles in your stomach a little bit,
Yeah.
And then I started embracing those things, and then it started becoming a ride. So that weekend, really, I started that, and about a week later, I went from 66 to 69 meters, which brought me from probably 25th in the country to like 8th.
Jeez.
Yeah, and just that, and I literally think it was, I went, I get to train. This is great.
Yeah.
So those are some things I would suggest to people to start looking at differently. But that being said, all of life is like that.
Yes.
I have to go to whatever this weekend. Or, hey, I get to go on an adventure this weekend.
It's perspective.
100% perspective. And I see people that have it basically on paper knocked, and they hate life, and it's horrible and everything like that. And I see people that I wouldn't want to trade places with them in a minute, and they're happy as can be, and I think it's all perspective.
Yeah.
And if someone's pissed off about their life, that's on them. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, and it's huge. Like, the power is all in your hand. You have
Sure.
the choice. And it's the whole speech of, like, I'm afraid to have, or like, my fear is that I have too much power, that, like, the one that's in Coach Carter, that speech. Like,
Sure.
the real power is all in your hand, and some of us don't even realize it or are too afraid to even try it, because we know with comes great risk, comes great reward, and also great pain if it doesn't go the right way.
Sure, absolutely. But really, I tell my wife, I said, I don't really think there is such thing as failure. I really don't believe it. I believe there's delayed success.
Yeah.
I know I'm eventually going to win, whatever winning is, and maybe eventually you do the process long enough and you don't reach that goal that you were looking for, but the win was the process.
Yeah.
And so I think when you start looking at it that way, it's all win.
Yeah.
And that you were able to live a strenuous and struggling life, because that's, as Adam Nelson said, that's all you're guaranteed in this world is the struggle. But if you see the struggle as part of the fun, well, then you're always going to win, because I get to be in the party, right?
Right.
I get to dance.
You get to.
You get to.
That's fabulous. So you're about to be a father.
I'm father 3 times.
You're actually
now.
father, 3 times father. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have 5, 3, and 1 right now.
Oh man, what are you seeing in these kids? Do they already have personalities and all that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, my eldest, my 5-year-old boy, he's all about the fire. He's one of the kids that. He and I wrestle and stuff like that together, and it's funny. You don't understand. I mean, some people, they just like. He loves pushing against me and just flexing his muscle and feeling strength. And he likes feeling I'm stronger than him, but he likes testing it and likes pushing it. It's interesting. Like, we'll get on all fours, and we'll just like bulls, just push each other and just back and forth. And he just thinks it's the greatest thing ever. And I just wonder, like, is that tactile? Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin release just come from the struggle, and is he already getting that at 5 years old, that the struggle is fun?
Well, it's like animalistic. It's like in our nature to have that struggle.
To the struggle, because otherwise you're literally just a mass sitting on the couch with no external resistance. It's terrible.
That's what concerns me a lot with like today and like my generation, because I know I struggle with this, is that we're very blessed to be in such a time period where we have constant entertainment.
Sure.
Luxuries are everywhere. Like going out of college, like if you look at apartments, they're almost well furnished. Like that's like the standard. Sure. And we are put in such a comfortable position that we have to either put our own mental stress on us to feel like there's some sort of struggle, or we just constantly go to the comfort area and we don't have the chance to grow by finding a struggle.
Sure.
Like if there's ever a problem on the interstate, most people I know would call it AAA than like fixing a flat tire on themselves, or know how to change their own oil or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's culturally too, that if our parents didn't do it or teach us how to do it, or then eventually those skills are just lost and they're left up to those who choose to do the dirty jobs that are really what keep the world going.
Yeah, a little micro action.
Yeah. Gosh, it's just. Matt Vincent put it really. He had a really interesting way he put it, and I said, "Man, you're getting really, really strong." And Matt was a 2-time world champion in Highland Games, and extremely strong individual. And I said, "Dude, you're getting really strong." And he looked at me and goes, "Bert, I'm only strong because my life is so soft, and every other place that I'm literally, I have the chance, to eat extra calories, rest an extra amount of time, and induce a fake sense of stress upon myself to become big and strong." He goes, "That's how easy my life is." He goes, "So when everyone talks about being so badass because they're strong, oh, this guy's badass, he could deadlift 800 pounds. He's like, not really. It generally means that your life is so easy. You could put additional effort, time, and calories towards something that's somewhat mundane."
Yeah.
And I loved his just attitude about it, and that's fine. I mean, we could create the struggle in our mind, but kind of the bottom line is you don't really have, in this world, you don't have to be strong. It's helpful. Now it's going to bite you in the butt if you don't at some point, but you could get by bedridden and never doing anything. You could get by. Your life would be horrible.
Yeah.
You'd be a drain on everyone around you, and you'd probably have super low self-esteem and not a lot of fun, but it would work.
Yeah,
Society has allowed you to be horrible at life and still live.
Yeah.
Which
it's not very demanding.
It's not very demanding at all. So, yeah, as long as you have resources, you could sit on your iPad all day and order food and order someone to wipe your butt if you wanted.
Yeah.
Pay for anything.
Amazon. coming out with
Amazon
drones
will
coming
do
to
it.
wipe your butt.
Absolutely.
That's the future, yeah.
That's right. And so at that point, I'd rather just not live if that's how easy my life is going to be, because that's not living. That's just being kind of alive.
Yeah.
Existing at best.
That's like the most uncomfortable thing. I couldn't imagine bidets. I've never been on a bidet, but it just
don't knock them. They're pretty cool.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. They're interesting. I was in Germany this year and I laughed, and then I tried it and I was like, all right. I'm not saying it's awesome. I'm just saying give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say Germany's beating us with sometimes cars, and now they're beating us with toilets.
They're beating us with hygiene.
Oh, man.
Which you wouldn't think Europeans would beat us with hygiene.
Oh, for real? Yeah. With all their history of English people having the worst teeth, of the early stereotype of that.
Right. Yeah. So no. It was an interesting endeavor.
What were you doing in Germany?
We were working with a couple government entities over there with some high performance stuff going on. So it was pretty neat.
A little low key right now about that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's some stuff for the war on terror, so it was good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Who are you working with these days mostly? I see you working. Oh, actually, I saw on Instagram today you delivered or presented your friend Omar Avila.
Avila.
Avila. Oh, that's a V. I spelled it wrong.
Yeah, Omar Avila. Crispy he's known as, I guess, if you get third and fourth degree burns over 80% of your body, you get the name Crispy. So it's a kind of a sick name, but he calls himself that. So
yeah. And that's the whole perspective thing. Like he took something that
right, and he said, "Well, I've been burned. I get it.
Yeah.
I've had 103 surgeries or whatever post explosion." So he said, "Yeah, I'm Crispy. I've had most of my stuff burned off of me and grafted back on, but I still deadlift 635 pounds and try to keep up."
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
And what was some of the cool things that you did on his design? If you haven't seen it on Instagram, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so what we did, we took an extra big rack that we had at the gym that had been used for a while, and that was kind of the key thing because I wanted to kind of follow the storyline of Omar. He's a big dude, big strong guy. He'd been around, he'd been a veteran for a while, and then he got blown up. Mm-hmm. So we took the rack and we fire blasted the rack with torches over the red paint and basically bubbled up the powder coat in different ways, and then actually used kind of a stenciling system where it looked like skin grafts, because he has skin grafts all over. And then put his logo on there and his scripture and everything, and then it was really, really cool. And then we clear coated it. And the rack was awesome. It just looked like Crispy, And then there was just like one more thing where it has to be different. So Crispy had elected to have his right leg amputated below the knee for his, I think, 100th or 102nd surgery that he'd had because he was having some problems with cancer and some things like that in his foot. And they kept basically chopping pieces of it off. So he said, forget it, just take it below the knee, get me a cool prosthetic, and let's move on.
Yeah.
And so we'd already made the rack, and then he got his leg chopped off. So then to match him, I chopped the leg of the rack off.
Yeah, that was like a nice touch. I was hoping you'd mention that, yeah.
Yeah, so we chopped the leg off, and then of course had to build him a Terminator foot. So our guys
so cool.
Went by hand and peened out all the little bones and ligaments and everything, and built him a steel foot on the bottom of the rack that... certainly one of a kind.
It was so sick. I was so. It made me think. Be ready. I think you should pitch CMT. What's it called? Pimp my rack.
There's a chance for that, and
that'd be so cool.
and I might have the guy. So we'll go from that later.
Oh, okay. Oh man, I'm so excited to see what happens with all these.
Yeah,
different
you
ideas.
never know.
Because that was the coolest thing, and if they've done pimp my ride, and then trick my truck,
sure,
and they've done all these different little the house remodel and all that.
Sure.
That's the next best thing.
Yeah, I think we do some neat stuff.
Yeah.
So that's Crispy's rack. Check him out, Omar Avila, and you can see the rack there and see the adventures of Omar.
Yeah.
So.
How do you know Omar? Did he contact you, or were you friends with him before?
Was introduced by a mutual friend of ours. I was in Texas a couple years back and called my bud and said I was in Texas if he wanted to hang out. He said, I can't make it. He said, but by the way, my buddy's right there in town. He lifts a lot of weights. He'd probably enjoy meeting you guys. And he came over to the convention and hung out with us for a couple days. And one of those guys that you just kind of immediately fall in love with and became a brother pretty quick.
So you're a big supporter of the troops. Did you ever see yourself be a part of the military, like going into it?
I respected them probably above athletics my entire life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
My grandfather was in World War II. No one else in my family served, so I wasn't around it. I didn't understand it. As far as no one ever said, hey, if you want to be in the Marines, you do this. If you want to be a SEAL, you do this. Yeah. And literally in my high school years, I wanted to go to Appalachian State and be a ski bum and basically a survival guy and ski, water guide, rafting and
man versus
fishing.
Wild, all that.
Yeah, because I've been doing that stuff my whole life. But I didn't know like the process for military. It kind of didn't even go across my radar, although I've always supported. And so then, later in life, we crossed a lot of the same paths, and a lot of the military units use our equipment, and I've just kind of had a newfound respect. I don't want to say newfound, but I'm more educated now.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I tend to get along with those guys really, really well. And it's because I think because I have a lot of respect for them, I have love for them. We tend to all like the same stuff. And it almost seems like I jive with those guys as well or even better than some of the athletes. And maybe it's just due to the time of my life. I'm not an active athlete anymore. But I love their idea of service. And I guess I experienced as an athlete, specifically as a lifting sport or throwing sport athlete, it's extremely selfish. You have to be selfish because it's an individual sport. So I got my fill of that.
Okay, yeah.
I had to be selfish for 20 years. I had to be, because if I wasn't going to do the training, there was no one else to do it.
Yeah.
My training didn't carry over to them. Theirs didn't carry over to me. We had our own little, this is the town of Bert. You are to take care of the town of Bert. No one else visits. And if you want to be good, come Olympic trials, you better get out and train. And then your buddies are like, hey, let's go fishing and do this. And you're like, I got to go train, sorry.
Okay.
You do that for 20 years, and you have to be very inside yourself. I got tired of that.
There's so much in your head.
Yeah, you get so much in your head, and then everything, your happiness starts to be reliant on how successful that you are.
Okay.
And that sucks. That gets,
oh yeah.
I remember if I threw far that weekend, I had a great week. If I threw like crap, that week sucked. Mm-hmm. If I hit a big lift, I had a great week. If I was weak and banged up, that week sucked. And after a while, this just roller coaster you're on, and you're never, I don't say you're never, but you're less concerned about others because you have to hit that Olympic standard, or you have to place high at nationals, and everything boils down to trying to do that. Whereas the military guys I'd hung out with, they're all about the guy to the right and the left of them.
Yes, it's a brotherhood.
It's a brotherhood. And that, just being an only child, that's something I always wanted. And so I ended up in a sport that was good for an only child because I was good at being individual, but there was still something that I always just wanted, a family larger than my blood family. So that group, and obviously you can't overlook basically the check that they sign going into the military, that with no specific amount on there.
Yeah, and no real idea of what job they're doing.
Well, just in that check, I mean that amount could be their life, and they've already signed it. And you just look at it and you go, whew. As tough as I was in college and all this other stuff, like, that's a whole nother level. Yeah, a whole nother level. Whether it be an actual selections process or just going to battle, realizing at any point you could die, and potentially for people who don't give a crap about you. Yes. You're dying for the country who majoritively might not care about you or like you. Yeah. That's pretty freaking tough. It's probably about as tough as it gets, And then I look at what I used to think was tough, like, wow, I threw a hammer X number of feet. I'm like, wow, what a not even cool goal that was. That wasn't like, that wasn't anything. Like,
it's cool to you, but it's not really cool to anybody else.
I made a steel ball fall from the earth further than the other guy did. Yeah. Yeah, not on the grand scheme of things, not real cool. Mm-hmm. Laying your life down or being willing to do it for someone else, that's cool. Definitely. So that's kind of why I've jived with those guys a little bit better, just because I respect them so darn much. And, and I want to be able to I didn't serve, and so hopefully I could serve them now that they're back.
Awesome. believe you are, like in your own way, and representing them positively.
Let me try.
With coming from such an individual sport and growing up as an only child, how did you transition into a brotherhood or finding the brotherhood? Because I kind of grew up sort of an only child. I have an older sister, but she was gone when we have 9 years difference, and so I grew up kind of alone. And I do weightlifting, and that's a very individualistic sport. Even though it's team setting, it's still very one-on-one. And I'm trying to figure out. I'm really bad at keeping connections.
Right.
With that, and so how did you end up building all these awesome connections in your brotherhood?
I think it's been one of those things I always yearned for having a bigger family and brothers and sisters. I always wanted that.
Yeah.
I really like seeing people smile. I really like seeing them have a good time. At times I'm too outwardly focused on other people's moods and things like that. They're
constantly taking temperatures of everyone.
Yeah, and to the point where it's unhealthy at times because I need to have more stringent boundaries. If you're in a bad mood, then you're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Do you ever struggle like when two people are talking, you're like trying to balance both of them talking, or?
Not necessarily. My hard thing is, if someone I care about, I walk into a room and they're having a hard time or they're in a bad mood or whatever they are, like I'll start taking on that.
It's your responsibility to make that person happy, or at least
right. I subconsciously feel that, and it's hard in a leadership position, so I'm having to reteach myself kind of to be callous to it, because if the captain is worried about everyone's little mini problems, I'm not being a good servant to them on the big time stuff. So sometimes I just got to say, hey, suck it up, man. Sorry.
Yeah, it's about that struggle too.
Yeah, if you're going to be a whatever about this, sorry, don't take me down with you. I might sound insensitive, but I'm intentionally being insensitive because I can't risk the ship on you not getting your crap together.
Yep.
And so that's why I struggle on that a lot, because that's not my nature.
Yeah. What it sounds like, you see the human inside of them.
Yeah, I do. I do, and I want to see him. I want to see him succeed and be happy. But it gets tiring at times because you start kind of taking everyone's energy in. So I can't remember the initial question, but
brotherhood. How you expanded into that?
Sure. So I think first of all, I care about how they're doing. I find I see generally the best in people. Yeah. Again, sometimes to my detriment, where I get burned or I'm gullible. And I was talking to a person this weekend about it who does a lot of the same things, and he's one of the most generous people I've ever met. And Zach Brown, the singer. And he and I talked about it. And he said, "Yeah," he goes, "I've been burned a lot of times being generous." He goes, "But I can't turn off. I always see the best in people." He goes, "But I don't want to, because if I turn that off, what am I doing for the world just to protect myself?"
Yes.
And he goes, "But I could change things positively by always looking for the best, and I'd rather be wrong and get burned than hold on to it so super tight and be so stonewall to everyone that I'm not I'm not valuable or helpful to someone, to more people, because maybe if you're like that, the one person that really, really needed it, you weren't open to, or you didn't see that brilliance that they have." So it was actually this was literally a conversation yesterday. So it was a good fortification of that idea that I've had, and I've had the conversation with my wife, like, "Hey, but you always see the best in everyone. You need to kind of open your eyes more."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't want to."
No, yeah.
I want to believe that they could be great. I want to believe, if they screw me over, what if that happens once or twice a year? What's that? The cost of doing just that the cover charge? Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know, but I can't worry about the rainy day and not go outside. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll get caught in the rain every once in a while. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So
it's all about it's the man in the sea who walks along and picks up the starfish and throws it back, and he's like, if only one of them ends up making it, then it's all worth it.
It was worth it, right? So I think that so I like making sure my buds are good and they're doing okay, and I see there's a lot of hurting in the world, so I try to call them as much as I can and check in on them, and and something that's kind of helped me is a little bit of a life hack, but I found that it's really helpful for them. So it's a two-way street. Is if I'm really, really stressed, I have an exercise where I stop and I think about 2 or 3 people that are probably more stressed than me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I call them immediately or text them.
Oh, interesting.
So I call it reach out. So it's like I have a few people in my life that are, generally pretty stressed for one reason or another. And, based maybe on our recent discussions or whatever they may be. And so if I'm feeling kind of freaking out, I'll immediately call one of those guys and turn the conversation directly towards them. What's going on? What can I do for you? How you doing? And I've found it pays both of us in huge dividends, because first of all, I'm less looking at myself, so now I'm stopping being selfish. Because usually when you're worrying about your own stuff, you're being somewhat selfish, at least self-centered. Mm-hmm. So that relieves the pressure off of me, because now I'm more concerned about someone else than me.
Yeah.
And then that person, usually it works for them, because when they're probably in a state where they're really, really stressed, someone reached out to them.
Yeah.
And which is always good when you think you're on your life raft is going down, and someone just rides their boat over and is like, "Hey man, need some help?" You're like, "Yeah, that'd be really nice about now,"
For real.
So that's kind of one of those things. And again, a little life hack is, I say reach out. Tell all my guys that, my sales guys and stuff like that. I'm like, hey man, I'm not talking about business stuff. It's like every day reach out to somebody that doesn't expect it, someone that maybe from your past, or they might be a customer. It might be just reach out and see what's going on, because everyone's hurting in some way or needs something. And then, but if you make that a part of what you do every day, you'd be amazed just how many people you help, and in that itself is a great life.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, it generally, not the intent, but it generally pays off with doors opening constantly. Mm-hmm. Because you were there for people, and you're doing it selflessly, and I believe that you get rewarded for stuff like that, especially when the intent is not to be rewarded for it.
Yes.
So
there's power in being noble.
Yeah, I don't necessarily call myself noble, but whatever you want to call it.
Power, doing good.
But reaching out is a big thing in relationship, and it's easy. But I don't, maybe it's not easy for some. Maybe it's simple, but it's not easy.
Exactly. So. It's easy to put on paper. It's easy to say, but actually doing it. That's the whole thing we talked about earlier. Is like those doors are there, but it's not walking through it. It's the hardest part.
And maybe that's the door that day.
Yeah.
Hey, this guy that I was friends with 5 years ago, I haven't heard from. I think it was kind of rocky when we talked last. Mm-hmm. All right, pick up the phone, see how he's doing. If he's still pissed at you, then, or you're still pissed at him. If you're still pissed at him, you're a moron.
Yeah.
Basically, in my opinion, because you should have worked it out in 5 years. Or if you're still mad about something that happened 5 years ago, you should just let it go.
Yeah, there's something,
Sure. So then that's a good self-regulating. But if not, hey, do you value the friendship enough to lower yourself to be the first guy to reach your hand out?
Yeah.
And if you can't, you probably need to look at that too.
Right, yeah. Again, perspective and like emotional intelligence is a big thing.
Yeah, emotional intelligence is the biggest thing in relationship. IQ is, so small needed to be a good friend.
IQ is really good for like a personal setting, but with this world being so brotherhood, team oriented interactions, it's the EQ that really EQ is king. Yeah,
EQ is king. And I remember listening to a podcast at one point, and I think it was maybe Tim Ferriss's podcast about a guy named the Scorpion. He was like the smartest person in the world. He was like 193 IQ or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, and he was talking about the majority of multi-millionaires and business people. He said it's almost never the smartest. Mm-hmm. When the IQ gets so high, generally the EQ is so low, EQ, emotional quotient, is so low that they can't relate to people.
Yeah.
And so he even said that. He goes, it was really, really hard for me because he's so smart. He's literally the smartest guy. And he was like, yeah, but for the last 20 years, all I've worked on is my EQ, and I pull people around me to help me with that constantly and to be an insulator for me, because I realize I have very low EQ. So he was able to like life hack it and figure out the formula for it. Even though he had a deficit there, he knew how to.
Man, he was so smart to even think of that.
He knew
Wow.
how to insulate it and go, okay, dude, if your EQ is so low, you need to take courses, you need to read books, you need to do all this stuff to figure out how to identify and to be able to work with people, or you'll be that weirdo living in your mom's basement that happens to be really smart, that you're mad at the world because your life is terrible, because no one likes you and you're the smartest dude ever.
Yep.
Which there's a lot of people like that. And
Yeah.
his thing was, and it was some certain percentage, he goes, the highest probability for success is usually one standard deviation above average on IQ, and EQ very high.
Okay.
So he goes, you're smarter than most, than average. You're smarter than average. It's not crazy when they say the average IQ is 100.
Yeah, we'll say that.
So 120 IQ, smart, but you're not Mensa, you're not a genius.
Yeah.
But your EQ is really high. So now you're smart enough to solve most problems.
Yeah.
But your EQ is high enough that you could convey messages, make people feel, make people understand where you're coming from, convince them of ideas, and that you could communicate with people. And he was like, those are the most successful people in the world.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know if you watch Netflix or anything like that, but Sherlock Holmes is something I've been on.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and the whole character of himself is just, he's so intelligent.
Right.
His EQ is very low.
Sure.
And I didn't think about this way, but yeah, he has a Watson. He has Watson rhythm.
Sure.
To kind of bridge that gap, to kind of smooth out the impersonal stuff that his impersonal acts.
Right.
Bring a connection to what he's doing.
You got it. And you have to have it, or you're literally going to be the guy that's mad in your basement. Mm-hmm. That you feel like you have all the answers to the world, but you haven't figured out how to have a friend yet.
Yeah.
It sucks. I would probably much rather have EQ in this world than IQ. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't necessarily want to be a moron either, but
right, yeah.
But the world's all about connection, not solving algebra equations.
Yeah. No knock on math.
Yeah, math is great.
Because we need to know math, how much weight's on the bar, obviously.
Let the smart kids tell you.
Yeah, there we go. That's what calculators are for. Yeah, or abacuses.
I can count.
Slide rules.
Yeah. I don't need no trigonometry to count the weights on the bar.
We have fingers. We can count the 10, 20 if I take off my socks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. With EQ comes very important with like romantic relationships and like being that you have a wife. I have had a girlfriend for over 2 years now and stuff like that, and that's like my longest relationship. I'm not saying like I know anything, and so I would love to learn from someone who's been in the game for a while. Any advice on a young buck trying to make sure I do the right things for my relationship or like future relationship or like where I'm at?
Yes, be a good conversationalist.
Interesting. Okay.
And
What does that actually entail?
2 things: be candid and be curious.
Ooh.
So if you're candid, you are very clear about what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. You answer questions very straight. There's no room you can still be tactful about things.
Yeah.
But there's no room for shadiness or weirdness or any of that. So you don't leave someone guessing, and then they usually interpret the worst.
Yeah.
And then being curious is obviously you're interested in them and what they're doing, and then that obviously shows value to them. If you're curious about what they're doing, they're going to open up more and they're going to feel safe and secure. So the relationship is going to go pretty well because they're not going to, be disgruntled that, well, he never asked about my day.
Right.
And I'm not saying a woman would do that, but a guy as well. I know guys that are.
It's that whole me, myself, and I song. What was it?
Sure.
Talk about me, talk about I. Want to talk about number one on my, me, mine?
Exactly. Yeah. And so be curious and be candid. Do those 2 things and do them well. You'll be a great conversationalist, and relationships generally go really smooth.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Did you learn that right away, or did something you learned over time?
Well, I've at times done it well. I've at times done it poorly. Okay. Something I have to keep up with, because if you're very motivated, generally you're not as curious, because you're not as curious of other people, mostly because you have to be in yourself, especially when I was that that rogue athlete by myself out there doing my thing.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to be more curious on but that's paid huge dividends in the world in general.
Yeah.
If someone walks up to you at a party, ask the questions versus talk. Don't wait till your chance to talk. Listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife has called me on a number of times. and then actually I was in a class a couple years ago that listed those as the two determining factors of proper communication, and it was just...
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Since then I've been able to almost take every conversation and kind of grade it and go, was I candid? Yeah, okay. Was I curious? I talked a lot. Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Did I asked this person this, and this? Wow, I didn't even, out of the 20 minutes, I never learned that much about them?
Yeah.
That was kind of a jerk move. Okay. And then, you could go from there and try to make it better the next time. And I think if you do that, you have a pretty good balance of what's going on.
Well, with a relationship and stuff like that, where you get so candid and stuff, you feel like you know a lot about someone, how do you continue learning more about them?
You can always dive deeper and deeper, but I think there is a spot where you learn majoritively the everything up till now stuff.
Okay.
And that's cool, because then that's the time where you could say, hey, I really know her, or she really knows me. My wife really knows me now. I would say she probably knows me better than anyone in the world, which is cool.
Best friend right there.
Right, there you go. And, she could see a look on my face in a picture and know what I was thinking. She was like, oh, you were kind of about this, or wow, you were really, really happy, and I know that look. And that's nice. It's nice that where someone then knows that, but there's power in that vulnerability, right?
Yes.
And so I don't have to worry about like, oh, well, I don't want to show my true whatever. It's like, man, get it past that.
Yeah.
Just be vulnerable. Being vulnerable with anyone is probably the most powerful thing that you could do.
Yes.
And I've learned that over the last few years. And profiling or fronting or whatever they want to call it, or posturing is, in my opinion, the absolute weakest action that you could do.
Yeah.
Being blown up and flexing and trying to act away is the first indicator that you're a child to me. I see it happen, and I just from a guy, but you go to a bar or something, and guys are being loud and boisterous and posturing, and immediately all I think is like, oh, poor kid.
Yeah, like what is he? Why is he so like?
Poor kid. And I used to, there's a part of me that used to want to challenge that, and then it was like, okay, that's dumb. And then there's a part of me that wanted to maybe have a superiority complex and go, he's a child, I'm a man. And now I've kind of evolved into, I feel bad for that guy. I feel bad that he feels he has to do that, or she has to do that. And then now it's more of a helping role. If you do end up getting in a conversation, you try to diffuse that quickly and kind of let them know, hey, you're safe.
Yep.
You're secure here. Let's have a candid conversation. I'm kind of curious about you. And then all that stuff kind of goes down, and then they don't have to be the big bro dogs.
Yeah, try to prove themselves in an environment that doesn't need to be proven.
No, and all the attempt to prove yourself, all it does is exposes the weakness that you're just a running scared child.
Yeah. And
I wish more people would realize that and stop being scared children.
Well, hopefully listening to someone as powerful as you and quiet strength as you, maybe we'll kind of see that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I just let you know what I think or what I see. I just want people to be able to whatever they are, just be that.
Yeah.
And that is strength, and that is power. And being vulnerable, man. Gosh, for this year at Summer Strong, man, we saw some of the most powerful and some of the most powerful people that I've known, even heard of. Watched them cry right in front of a room of 500 people.
Heck yeah.
And the interesting thing about it, you're the immature thought would be, oh my gosh, I'd be mortified. I'd show my weakness, and then people would think I'm a sissy, and I'm at Sorinex, and I'm at all this place, and everyone's big badasses and strong, and gosh, I couldn't do that in front of those guys. But the funny thing is all the people that did immediately had some of the biggest, strongest people in the room either crying along with them,
yep,
or came up to them immediately afterwards and just poured love on them. We're like, man, that hit me so hard with this, and thank you for sharing that. And I wish more people would be more real. And people want real.
Yeah.
Again, life hack: be real. Be real. Don't be the Instagram version of yourself, or try that crap, or try, hey, look at me, I'm name anything, whatever. Just stop telling everyone how strong or how rich or how hot or how whatever you are, because it's just BS, man. It's none of that's real. Just be real. Hey, this is where I'm at. Like it, don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah.
If you've done X number of weight, let's say you bench 300 pounds. Great. Say 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Don't say 350.
Yeah, right.
Don't say 315. Because guess what? I don't care if it's 350 or 300.
Yeah.
Both are good, and both aren't really that strong. I hate to say it. I mean, in the real world of things, you're still a third of the world record. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Just be real. If you said 302, I would respect you more because I know you're probably telling the truth.
Yeah, you're being spot on with that.
And I'm like, okay, got it. You've done 302. Perfect. Good job, man. I'm curious about that. How did you get to do that?
Yeah.
Cool.
And where you're going with that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What have you learned along the way with that?
Sure. Numbers mean zero to me anymore.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation with Brandon Lilly. I told him one day, I was like, I don't even know what your PR. I mean, he was one of the strongest powerlifters in the world.
Yeah.
And he and I had a conversation about 3 years ago after he'd hurt his leg. And he told me later that it was a pretty powerful conversation for him. And, but what it was candid and curious. And I just told him, I was like, man, I really don't care how much you lift. I was like, you deadlift 8 something, I think. But I said, but notice I don't even know how much it is. And I'm sure you've almost killed yourself for that last X number of pounds.
Yes, all the sacrifices.
And realize I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Because guess what? Someone's stronger. And if they're not, someone will be stronger.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. So, are you a good person?
Yeah, that's what yeah.
Are you someone that I could count on? Are you someone that's interested in me at all? Are you someone that's helping others? Oh, cool, you're strong too? That's neat. Cool. Good for you. Oh, wow, it's 840 pounds. Wow, that's strong. Mm-hmm. Cool. Is that how much you're ever going to do? Or are you like training? Are you going to try to hit 400 kilos going for 880? If you are, tell me how you're going to do that. I'm interested.
Yeah.
That's the conversation. But people get so tied up in having to make everyone think that, I bench 405. Well, whatever. Great. I'm glad you did. It's cool. Yeah, have goals, I deadlifted 600 this year. That was a personal goal.
Yeah.
It's because years ago I thought that when my athletic career was somewhat over throwing and I stopped the really, really heavy lifting, I figured, well, I'd worked up to 555. Mm-hmm. Wow, 600 would be tough to get to. I probably won't ever do that. I just kind of said,
You probably won't ever get to 600, is that what you said?
Yeah, I said that was probably not in the cards because when I weighed 260 and I was a professional Highland Games athlete, if I didn't do it then, I'm probably not going to do it as a 40-year-old with 3 kids and running a business. That's just probably how that's going to work. And then last year, I kind of surprisingly hit 565 at Summer Strong, and then I thought, hey, I'm turning 40 this year. I'm only 35 pounds off. I'm going to train for the next year, and at Summer Strong next year, I'm going to pull 600.
Heck yeah.
Again, not that the 600 was a magical, it was a number I decided that I never thought I would do, and I'm going to train the next year to do it just as a personal goal. If people think it's great, fine. People think it sucks, fine. I really don't care. But it was cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you didn't understand by listening to this, you did pull 600. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it worked out. But that was, for me, I set up a goal.
Yeah.
I programmed for it. I set up a plan of attack. I got to exercise that plan of attack, which was the process itself that I got to enjoy. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened the day that I was supposed to do it, I was able to do it.
You're feeling good.
And it worked. And so everything kind of worked together. And then now I'm deciding, okay, well, I've done 600 for one. Well, while I'm still strong, I'm going to try 500 for 10.
Okay.
Because I want to start coming back away from the absolute strength, maybe leaning out a little bit and stuff like that. So, okay, well, that'll be a fun challenge. Mm-hmm. And it'll suck. Again, is it good? I don't know. It'll be good for me.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of cool. And then 30 days after that, I'm going to do 405 for 20.
Okay.
Good idea? I don't know. Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's
Let's
a
try
challenge.
it. It's a challenge.
Yeah, you're opening that door and you're choosing to go through it.
Choosing to go through it, choosing to try it, to struggle, because why not? It's fun.
Yeah.
It's still a party, and while I can, I'm going to do it. You know, I talked to Zach Brown this weekend, and he had a really interesting thing. He told me that we were discussing 9/11, and I had one of the other gentlemen there, Mike Rodriguez, who was a war hero, and he said, yeah, you know, 9/11 really defined my era in the military. I mean, you know the people who were fighting because of 9/11 kind of deal.
It changed everything.
Changed everything, sure. And Zach was kind of said, he goes, you know, it's kind of interesting. He goes, it defined my life as well. I kind of looked at him like, really? He said, yeah. He goes, I was going to college, and I was singing in, you know, some bars and stuff like that, doing the music thing. And he said 9/11 happened. And he said the night of 9/11, I had a gig in a little bar, and he said, and I still went and played. And he said, and I sat up there singing to people. He said, you know, a third of the people are in the room are sad and crying and watching TV. And all these TVs in this bar are all on. He goes, I sat up there singing. I looked at multiple TVs. Every TV had burning buildings on there. He goes, I just sat there watching this and going, you know, how tough life can be and how you never know and everything like that. And he said, I decided that second I wasn't going to do anything in my life that wasn't an adventure and something that I could go wholeheartedly, passionately into. He goes, September 12th, I quit school. I went music full time, literally the next day. He said, I quit. I got in a van with my dog, and I traveled around the country, and I knew that that was it, because no plan B, I'm going after it.
Yeah.
And now, you know, the guy's has an empire and runs 17 businesses and is, you know, had 8 #1 hits and all this other stuff.
Jimmy Buffett's following kind of is gravitating towards him a little bit. Yeah.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, I mean, the guy's an absolute juggernaut. I mean, you look at the people he's played with. Who's played with Jimmy Buffett, Kid Rock, Greg Allman, Dave Grohl, Chris Cornell.
Gosh. Yeah, all these like superstars of all genres right there.
Jewel, Jimmy Page, like who's played with...
He's pop, country, like
yeah,
all other genres still respect him. Like
and you just go, how did you... But it's interesting, he's like, yeah, I decided that day, quitting school, this is what I'm going after. Talk about walking through a door.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, he kicked that sucker down. And just the leap of faith was absolutely enormous. So, yeah, that's the stuff I get inspired by, to hear stories how people just said, okay, this doesn't make any sense, much like me walking on at South Carolina. I didn't know I was walking onto the most difficult throwing program, one of the most difficult throwing programs and competitive in the nation.
Yes.
You know, but because of that somewhat ignorance, I was able to succeed because I knew what I was walking into. It's like basically walking onto buds and thinking it's a boot camp workout, you know, and you just start doing it. You're like, this is really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, yeah,
they'll kick you in the butt.
Yeah. You're just like, I thought this was like for an hour. And they're like, no, this is like 9 months. And you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll just keep going. And then you wake up and you're a SEAL one day.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that was neat.
Yeah.
And that was basically what I did in college. It was moronic to think that it would work. So yeah.
Speaking of storytelling, like what you mentioned in the beginning, like that's your story, Zach Brown's story, the story like of that SEAL that you came out with is like ultimately like what makes living worth living. It's putting yourself, it's the underdog, putting himself in a situation whether he knows it or not that's too much for him, going through some struggle, but ultimately coming out better for it.
Sure.
Whether he succeeds at it or succeeds at something else because of something he learned in that one struggle.
Of course, and that's the key. Goes back to there is no such thing as failure.
No, yeah.
Maybe the outcome is different than you thought. Maybe I talk about the delayed success, but there's no failure.
Yeah.
I mean, you just keep going. I mean, the failure is you die one day.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, you get to fail once.
Yeah. Game over.
Game over. Okay, fine.
It's not Pac-Man.
We'll play the game the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You know, you're only going to die that once. Just go. You know, and my buddy Rudy Reyes talks about, I love it. He says, between birth and death is go, and between go and death is go, and between go and go is go, and between go and go is go. Okay. Life is infinite go. Yeah. And that's just how he sees it. It's go, 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 go. It's just you frickin' fly.
Yeah.
And you just hammer it, and whatever comes that you could get involved with and people's lives you could change, and it's all go. And that's his mindset of don't lay down and die. Don't lay down and say, no, I don't want to try this. It's just saddle up, swing, 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 keep swinging, keep swinging, keep swinging. And I think people miss that and they lose it too quickly.
Oh yeah. It's that realization that there is an end to this game.
Yes.
Is ultimately why you should be striving and putting it out there now. Like
Sure. In the last month, I've had 2 close friends of mine basically have inoperable cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
And, most likely they won't be around this time next year. And then you kind of look and you go, okay, we've had songs, of course, about this stuff. I'm like, what if I got the news of that today?
Yep.
How much of my last 40 years would I change?
Yep.
Because when you get that news, that's the
it
news.
Makes you sit down and
that's
really
the news
evaluate.
that probably the game is getting potentially over.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to start making that plan B at that point. I'd rather, if I ever get that call one day, go, wow, I'm glad I ran the last 55 years like I did.
Yes.
And then, hey, what if you don't ever get that call? Well, then you really won.
Yes.
But if you just sit around and, lay up and play for the short game, there's no possibility to win.
No.
Or win. It's not like against anyone else, but the win is did you squeeze every ounce out of life?
Yeah. The whole looking back, and that needs to happen multiple times throughout your life, or throughout maybe even your day or your week or your month or your year, than just when you get that news that someone is dying or you're dying. It needs to constantly be is the way my life going or way my life has been, is that how it should be or how it could be?
Right.
Or how I would want it to be or can make it be? Yeah.
Is what I'm doing right now going to be one of those bright moments on my deathbed that I think about?
Yes.
Is what I'm doing right now, is that leading to it? Is that actually one of them? Mm-hmm. And if one of those are the answers, keep doing it.
Exactly, yeah.
If it's not, look at it a little closer. You may want to change your trajectory or your path. If you're just sitting home pissed off at the world and out of shape and not doing anything about it, guess what? You're wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to call you on it, because you could be doing better than that.
Yeah, it's not... Don't settle. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, don't settle for it, because it's just...
Live in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100% of us die.
Yeah.
And you gotta just swing as much as you can while you can. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And I feel like such a poser, because I'm just starting my journey and stuff, saying all this stuff. It's just, I'm a big fan of all these things. And being around you guys, I just 22.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so my goal is to have awesome stories like yourself, or really my mom recently passed, actually.
Okay.
And so this really got me off my butt, because I wish I would have done this sooner, sort of.
Sure.
So she could have seen this, but my dad's still around and I'm still around, and I want to make sure I can do something
100%.
help those who've gone through anything
Sure.
and stuff like that. So.
Well, and you getting it at 22, it's pretty awesome, because you still have most likely a really long time to exercise that and to hone that skill, and so that's great. The worst thing is, never getting it, and the second worst thing is getting it late in life.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not saying by any means that I have it all figured out. I just have a feeling I know what works for me, and I've had a track record that would indicate to most people that I've had a pretty extraordinary life.
Yeah. From what I can tell, knowledge or wisdom is like a funnel. I'm at that point where I'm at the top of the funnel, and
Sure.
I can relate to what you're saying, but I'm probably still so uneducated.
You don't have enough context.
Yeah, and as you go through the life and go through the context, your funnel gets smaller and smaller, what ultimately comes out with the truth.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you're taking in all information right now. You're weeding through it. I'm sure it's great. You're smart. You're doing podcasts. You're interviewing a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so, you're getting perspectives that I'm sure conflict at times. That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The curiosity, asking questions is what I find is biggest.
Yeah, I would probably stick with that. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, the doors open every day, and the people who sit at home and complain that nothing cool ever happens in their life are the ones that walk past those open doors constantly, or they're too afraid. They're too self-absorbed to see their doors, and they're too afraid to walk through them when they see them. And hate to say it, that just leaves more doors open for people who see it.
Yeah.
And and you probably noticed that a lot of the people that are successful are like, man, that guy's so lucky. Everything always happens cool to that guy.
It was an overnight success.
Overnight success, sure. Yeah, no, that's what I tell people. We're going to write a book that says how to build a world-class business in 37 short years.
Yeah.
You know, you only go out of business a couple times, only go without a salary for a year. It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Did you have a wife at that time when you went out on salary? Is this actually a real situation?
Oh yeah, sure.
Were you married at that time?
No.
Okay.
No, so I had had a little bit of cash saved up, but I didn't go without a year. I went for a month or two at times, but my dad went for an entire year at a time. And he didn't have a huge reserve, and he had to actually put in the majority of his life savings also. And got cancer the same year, and basically he was kind of out of the play for a while. And he looked at me one day, and this was 12, 13 years ago, and said, hey man, all my money's in the company. I'm probably not going to take a salary the most of this year, and but I believe in you, and I believe that you could figure out how to turn it around and get me paid back at some point. So you talk about stress.
Oh yeah.
At 25, 27 years old, to know like you've only been in the business for 5 years, and your dad, who's recovering from cancer, doesn't have any more life savings, and he's not getting paid. He's basically just living off just fumes. Yeah. And it's up to you to figure out how to pay him back because you're his partner. Yep. Those are those struggle times, but that's the time when you fall back on the training and go, okay, I've done really, really hard stuff before. Yeah. I did stuff that shouldn't have happened. The skinny kid from Irmo shouldn't have gone to the Olympic trials twice. Yeah. Like that's the stuff you go, okay, what do I know how to do? I know how to work really, really, really hard and do all the extra stuff and be comfortable with crap for a long time. Yeah. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. And those, I think, are the people that could get through life, could get through business, could get whatever. I've never seen a business that was successful the entire time. Yeah, there has been ups and downs. There has to be. I mean, because you're not tough enough if you've always been successful. Yeah. If every you're not challenging yourself and your true potential. Yeah, you're not even challenging. You're never really challenging yourself. The world's challenging you. Okay. You're fighting back. Yeah. No one in their right mind is doing it in business. I'm going to make this hard so it'll challenge me. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess through your intent, you're challenging yourself, but a lot of it is just you're just trying and you suck at it, so you get your butt kicked a bunch, and so that's where good mentors come in. And I had a good one. My dad didn't have any. Who was your mentor at that time? My dad. Okay. My dad through of course my lifting stuff, and then and lately I've reached out to different mentors within my industry, and really a lot of them outside my industry. Is it simple as just emailing and having the right contact to email them? I'm not an email guy. I mean, I email some, but I'm a get in your face and go out and have a beer, go have some barbecue, become friends, be available, ask curious conversations, be candid, be someone that they could rely on as well. So you build up your value. I mean, because life is basically an economy. Yes, sir. So does that person want to be around you? Are you offering value to their life? If you're just there to suck them dry of information, that ride happens pretty quickly. They're like, okay, well, you've just mined all your info from me, and you're kind of about you, and you can pound sand, and thanks for not calling again. Right. And there's a lot of people in this industry do that. They mine information off people, or not this industry, well, all industries. Yeah, everywhere. They had their contact, and you be like, well, I'm going to go out and do some networking. Yeah, networking. That's the... Well, networking is you're just cherry picking stuff. You're collecting names. You're collecting names and data that could help you get further ahead. But again, I hate to keep using the term the life hack. The joke of all that is how you get further is by helping everyone else. You can maybe run up the ladder quickly by, pushing your own agendas, but that's not how you have really quality relationships or people that, maybe have a lot more information or experience than you wanting to mentor to you by just you taking and taking and taking and taking. You only get what you give.
Yes.
So
it's almost like you have to give 51% to get 41 back, sometimes 49 back.
Sure, or you give 100 or you give 85% to get 5% back.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because maybe that's the 5% that's going to make the change in your life, that's going to open up one thing for you. As a thrower, Judd Logan was a big mentor to me. He was a coach for another school, but guess what? Every meet that I knew that his school was going to, I also entered. Mm-hmm. And I was a young guy that enjoyed training and was really, really interested, and I knew he was the guru.
Yeah.
So if his crew were going out afterwards for dinner, I'd tag along. And mm-hmm. guess what? Sometimes I bought dinner for everybody because that was my value.
Yep.
Because, I burned a lot of gas going places. I bought a lot of beers. I bought a lot of food. And, gave a lot of t-shirts out and just stuff where after a while I was like, hey, Bert's a pretty good dude.
Yeah.
He's always here to help, and then when that person's been a 4-time Olympian and that's the goal you're trying to achieve, they'll say, hey, Bert, you might want to get your right foot down a little bit sooner. And what are you doing in your poles right now? Okay, yeah, change that to this and this and this. Maybe that was a 20-second mentorship I got in a weekend.
Yeah.
Most people aren't able and aren't available to put that type of time in for a seemingly small return, right? They want to email someone. Well, what should I do? Dude, I ain't got time to email you back.
Yeah.
You want to do it? Show up at the gym and train. Mm-hmm. And show me that you're really interested in doing it. Show me that you're going to literally put in sweat equity and personal effort and sweat on the bar and get after it. I'm not going to write you a freaking story in a book about how to do it. Those are online. Go pay for someone who's done that. Show me that you're a tenth of as interested in it as I was. And then I'd be glad to.
Yeah, you want to see the potential in it.
Sure, and the return.
Yeah.
I don't think most people are even worthy of getting wisdom from mentors if they're not going to put forth the effort.
Yeah.
Why would you pass it on to someone who's not
going to do anything
a holder of that because they're getting it the easy way?
Yeah. Everything's an investment.
Sure, it's an investment. Are you going to invest in you? Mm-hmm. Because if you're not, I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, just email it to me. Let me just read it. People would say that. I go, I'm across town. If you don't have time to come over and actually do the stuff, and you want to take the easy route and sit on your iPad at night and just read it in your bed,
yeah.
Well then, sorry man, I'm not your guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was one of the ways I got pretty far. I burned up tires and drove around the country, and if somebody good was, Koji Murafushi was training in Athens, Georgia that weekend, I'm going to Athens, Georgia that weekend, and I'm going to get there a day early. I'm going to hang out, and there's another training session they're going to take before the real one starts. I'm in on that one. You're going to go lift now? Okay, I'm coming.
Okay.
You're going to go eat in Subway? Sure, I'll go. I don't love Subway, but you sit there with an Olympic champion for an hour and you get to talk to him because now you're eating together.
Right, yeah.
And you get to ask questions. You get to see what he does. And, he never gets cheese on his thing. Why don't you get cheese on your thing? Oh,
they're curious. Yeah.
Just being curious. And you start drilling into all these little things and you go, that's what you can start deconstructing that success. That's what that person does. Or you just realize it's just some weird mundane thing they do. It's just a style thing, not an actual technique, which is fine too. But now you don't get lost in the weeds. Mm-hmm. So you just do that for like a couple decades.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the truth of it. You do it for a couple decades.
Yeah.
And then you come out on the other side and you have a butt ton of wisdom because you've been around the greats and you've rubbed shoulders, rubbed elbows with them, and you've just been around it.
Yeah.
And that's what I consider being a student of the event.
Yeah.
A student of the sport. That's the fly fishing mentality. I'm just going to do it for a long time and hang out with other people that are really, really good at it and be a student. And eventually, all the masters, that's who they are. They're not the guys that read these 3 books And I mean, you got to do that on your other thing. And you see on my wall, I have champions. Champions don't only do what's on the workout.
Mm-hmm. That's your quote.
That's my quote.
Yeah.
And that was just a personal experience. And I was telling someone that the other day, and I put another thing on Instagram the other day. Greatness rarely occurs between 9 and 5. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. 9 and 5, I mean, that's what I expect you to do. Yeah. That's what you're paid to do. You want to get better?
What are you doing outside of there? Yeah.
It's that quote was exactly from me in college. I could do all the stuff in the workout, and I'm sure I'll be okay. I'll be good. But the day I was supposed to do 315 for 6, and I did it for 7 or whatever it was, and I did it for 16 or 14, or I think it's 14. That wasn't on the workout.
Yeah.
That was the extra, the stuff that wasn't on the workout. But that's what allowed me to succeed. Otherwise, my success would have been so gradual, I'd have run out of time.
Okay.
I'd have run out of time in 5 years. I wouldn't have been good in time.
Yeah.
To do it. So I had to just gas it, and there were years at Sorinex when we would do big college deliveries, I would intentionally schedule them for the weekends, because that means I could work 5 days and then I could work the weekends too, and I wouldn't have to take days off work to go do deliveries. People go, but you don't get a weekend. I'm like, yeah, but I'm building something. It's mine. And now I get a 7-day work week when you have a 5-day work week. Right. I'm going to catch you doing that. And it's the same thing I did in track when I was training. Okay, I'm going to train Christmas, and I'm going to train really hard over the summer. So now I have 3 months in the summer, 1 month in Christmas, and a little bit of time. So I have 4.5 weeks. Well, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That I have. Well, if not 4.5 weeks, so that was 3 months. So now it's like 12 weeks. Now I'm talking, 20% of the year, I'm making up ground on you.
Right, yeah.
You let me do that for 5 years, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. But everyone else saw it as like, hey, not everyone. The guys on my team generally, they work really hard too.
Yeah.
But they just didn't start from the below deficit. I wasn't even in the ground. And I'm not saying that I was the only person that did that. The good people all do. Yes. All the champions I knew all did that. Mm-hmm. All the people that were the almost did what was on the workout.
Yeah.
And I would say that's across the board. I've never seen a true champion that did just what was on the workout.
Yeah. Like your stories about Michael Jordan or Kobe, always being the first one to enter the gym, always the last one to leave. Sure. Always when they're outside of there, they're just studying game film.
Always.
It's the champions that put the work in when you're not.
They become a student of it.
Yeah.
They become a student.
And I can't even imagine, like these days, like it's becoming even more, time is being, I don't know, transportations could be like huge. Because soon we have self-driving cars, and I was thinking like, I can't imagine the type of work that people are going to start doing, like yourself or like people in New York or like that who are entrepreneurs that will start working in their cars who have their laptop right in front of them.
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't even know how that would work, but
yeah.
I mean, heck, I know a couple of my buddies, they have drivers specifically for that.
Yeah.
So they don't have to drive and they could just work. Makes sense. I mean, heck, if I could afford it, I'd probably do it myself.
Yeah.
Because if I could put another hour in, that could either be an hour I'm not here and I could be with my family, or that could be an hour in, I could catch up even faster. And then you could kind of pool your time. If you hit it really hard, an extra hour, then you could take a week off and be with your family.
Yeah.
But the 9 to 5 is just, it's a model that's not built for success, in my opinion. So.
I'll say, like, I have a big, one of my big goals, or not goals, but like, what I see is a successful life, or something that really kind of desires, like having a successful relationship and kids and stuff like that. Any advice there? I'm about to say, I know we're running probably way over time. I'm gonna let you go, so you actually can spend time with those kids.
The exact question. What were you?
So it's like, any advice on how to have to run a successful family? We talked about relationships a little bit with your wife and stuff.
Sure.
But there's the balance of your wife and kids and business life, like that big balance. And we'll close there. I'll let you go.
Well, I don't know if I'm actually successful at it. I work on it.
Well, that's all you can ask for, is at least striving.
Yeah, I work on it.
What you've learned
you
from...
got to realize that it's hard, because the majority of the really extraordinary great things in my life came to me because of Sorinex.
Yes, sir.
They just offered me that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so you have to hold that very dear, or whatever your vehicle for your adventure is. Sorinex is my vehicle for adventure.
Yes, sir.
And you have to hold that dear, and you have to nurture it, and you have to protect it, and you have to exercise it, because that's the engine that makes in many ways my life go. The other side of it is, why, the crowning achievement of my adventure is my wife and kids. Mm-hmm. So you have to realize those are kind of on polar ends of the scale.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's real hard. You have to have, my wife really, really understands. She understands me. That's where it goes back to having a person that understands you, like what makes you tick. Mm-hmm. I had an experience come up recently that was super extraordinary, and it was a door that opened that is a very rare door, and perfect example. I'm gonna brag on my wife a little bit. Called her and I said, "Hey, got a favor to ask, and if you need me to make it up in some way, I will." And but I'd really like. And she goes, before I start, she goes, "Okay, the answer is yes. Just tell me what you're doing."
That's awesome.
And I mean, she didn't even ask parameters, what it even was yet. But she goes, "I could hear in your voice you're so excited. The answer is yes. Of course I'm going to say yes. But just now let me know what's going on."
Right.
But that showed her trust in knowing that I wouldn't do something that was going to injure our marriage or stress the relationship too much. But she also was showing me that even if it did stress it, my happiness, she appreciated so much and knew she was giving me that gift of freely doing something that made me happy. Mm-hmm. And she was removing that stress immediately, and she goes, "Okay, now just share it with me." So she was being candid, but she was being curious as well. And she was like, "Well, just tell me what that was." And it was like, and then I told her, and she was like, "That's amazing." And then, I said, "Well, I'm going to be back probably instead of Saturday morning, I'll be back probably Sunday night." She was like, "Okay, cool, that's awesome." And then I got a text an hour later. She's like, "Even if you need to be back Monday morning, do that." Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. Like, now what did that make me do? And from a relationship side, it made me appreciate her more, love her even more, realize she respects me and loves what I do even more. Mm-hmm. It made me want to get home to her sooner.
Yeah.
And it made me want to look for opportunities that I could pay her back, not by guilt, but by being thankful.
Yeah.
And saying, wow, she has my back so much, I can't wait to have her back in something.
Right, yeah.
And so that's kind of the manifestation of how the relationship works. And, what I would say for people to try to find, but all that comes to those initial building blocks of relationship and proper communication. So then, she's not, if I'm saying instead of coming home Saturday morning, now think I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and 1. It ain't easy.
No, yeah.
By any means. But for her to say, okay, Sunday night, cool. I know it'll be worth it to you, and if it's worth it to you, it's worth it to me.
Okay.
That's just super beautiful. I couldn't think of something more selfless for someone to do, but that selfless action, builds the want for me to do something selfless for her whenever I get the chance.
Yes.
And the other side of it is, if I didn't, she probably needs to go find another guy.
Exactly, yeah.
Because then I'm a jerk off. So.
It's always just like, it's just giving.
Just giving.
Yeah.
It boils down to you get what you give. Mm-hmm. And just give, and maybe you're going to get burned, and that's fine. But, I know my wife, but not because, but that her actions bolstered a husband who adores her, appreciates her, wouldn't ever cheat on her, all that other stuff, because I realize she's in my corner. Mm-hmm. And I would do anything to make sure that she knows that I'm in her corner.
Yeah.
So then it's cool. And then everyone's good. And it's rare, and I got a good one. But that's kind of how I would see it.
Well, that's awesome. I would say I'm going to let you actually get back to your family and your kids, so I really appreciate it. And,
of course.
It was a pleasure talking to
Hey,
you, Bert.
thanks a bunch. I appreciate it, Jeremiah.
Is there anything you want to plug or anything before we go?
Yeah, check us out at Sorinex.com, and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that other fun stuff. We're on there, and if you want to check me out, you can follow me on Instagram and say hi, and if we can help you, let us know.
That's awesome. Appreciate it, Bert.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, y'all. Thank you again so much for listening to this episode with Bert Sorin. Again, follow him on all the social medias. Follow us at Instagram at Jeremiah the Insta. Follow me on Facebook at Jeremiah the Social Media. Again, talk about the episode, support the guests, And be ready for our next episode next Monday with the Dave Allowine of Carnage. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, y'all. Peace!